world, incidentally, on Armed Forces Radio now and on the Fox Business Network. Please welcome to the program from Connecticut, Senator Joe Lieberman. Good morning, Senator Lieberman.
Good morning, Don Imus. How are you?
Well, I'm all right. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm good. You know, it's where you can feel the Thanksgiving spirit and aroma in the air, so it always gets a little better at this time of the year.
So we have a policy on this program. I do.
Yes.
Where everybody who's on, I ask them their 5 favorite songs.
Yes.
And if they won't tell me, then I cancel them.
You waterboard them. Yeah. Okay.
So did anybody from your staff ask you what your 5 favorite songs were?
No, they told me you were going to ask me this morning what my 5 favorite songs were.
What are they?
Okay, well, I can't say that I've prepared a list, so we can do this impressionistically. Or we can do it, it's live radio. We can do it right now.
All right.
So my tastes are fairly diverse. So, but I'd say if you asked me to choose one all-time would be Sinatra. I love Sinatra, and I'd probably go with My Way as my favorite.
It's a good choice.
Yeah, and then go back, let's see, chronologically in my life. Remember, I was growing up in the 50s, so those were the great rock and roll years. So something like Fats Domino's Blueberry Hill was a great favorite of mine.
Great choice.
And I got to choose one of my favorite Elvis. It's either Love Me Tender or Heartbreak Hotel. Love Me Tender sounds a little... And then I had fantasies about all the pretty girls in my class, none of whom I ever touched, of course.
Sure, of course not.
Yeah. And then I went into, I'm taking myself into college in the 60s, then I went into a Dylan phase. So, you know, that was the official title, The Times Are Changing?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good list, Senator.
Comes senators, congressmen. I didn't know I was going to be a senator then. Please heed the call.
Hey, please don't sing, Senator. Begging you.
I'm sorry.
That's a good list. All the pretty girls. And
yeah.
Is that the Willie Nelson and Julio Iglesias one?
Pardon?
Is that the one that Willie Nelson and Julio Iglesias recorded?
Yeah.
Well, probably
that's right. That's a good one.
That's a good list, Senator.
So I got 4 there, and if I chose a 5th.
That's 5.
Yeah, well...
You had My Way, Sinatra, Blueberry Hill, Fast Domino, Let Me Tender, Elvis.
Yeah.
All the pretty girls, and what was the last one?
My Way.
Bob Dylan.
Times are changing, yeah.
Times are changing, yeah. Times are changing, Dylan. He had another album which I love where he did a song about Joey Gallo. That was unusual. And I had another one on that one called Two More Cups of Coffee for the Road. This was my earlier, more offbeat period.
When you had your freak on, man, your long hair, you had your afro and all. Say, are you on this super committee for debt reduction?
No, I wish I were.
Are they going to meet? Well, okay, if you were, are they going to meet this deadline next week?
The mood in the Capitol today, and we took off for Thanksgiving yesterday, was that it's unlikely, but it'll be a real setback if they don't, because we're obviously in real trouble. $15 trillion in debt, and the 2 third rails here for both parties. Obviously, Republicans don't want to raise taxes, and Democrats don't want to cut the increase in spending on entitlement programs like Medicare, which is the fastest growing federal budget item, but both parties on the super committee seem to have broken through and been willing to touch that third rail, which they have to do for the national interest, and yet they're frozen there. I thought if they broke, because the Republicans have put some tax increases on the table, the Democrats have put some Medicare entitlement reforms, but in each one of these cases, each party has to confront the core constituency, the interest groups in their party. And that's the test, and it's a test of our system about whether they're going to have the guts to do that, or we're going to have the guts to do it, or in the national interest, because if not, we're going to continue to slip as a country, and ultimately we're going to be in a real financial crisis, greater even than we're in today. So,
I keep thinking, and I think other people do as well, not maybe people in New York or L.A. or Washington, D.C., but I think most people in the country think, as I do, that everything's going to work out okay, but it may not.
Yeah, I mean, in our history, everything generally does work out okay,
Yeah.
and the true American history, and the truth is that we are still by far the biggest economy. Everybody's worried about China. China's rising, but they've got terrible problems, tremendous problems, and our economy is like 2.5 or 3 times larger than theirs. But we're in a slide, and we've got to. The single biggest thing we can do for economic growth is to deal with the debt and come up with a bipartisan agreement, because if you look at this economically over history, the one everybody talks about, what are we going to do for jobs? What are we going to do to create jobs? Well, the one closest indicator of job growth to follow is private investment, because government's not going to create the jobs, but government's got to create the environment in which the private businesses will invest and create jobs. And to me, the number one thing that private business wants today is some confidence about the future, and the best way for people in government to show that is have a bipartisan agreement to reduce the debt. Because at some point, if we don't, interest rates are going to rise. We're going to our rating. This could happen if the super committee doesn't agree in the next week. The market could take a dive. We could have another drop in our rating by the rating agencies, and it's not good. Some people, yeah, go ahead.
You like Mitt Romney?
Personally, I do. I mean, I'm sort of taking a sabbatical from elective politics, but I got to know Mitt Romney during my walk on the wild side in the McCain campaign in '08, and I mean, know him personally because I just watched him publicly before. He's a very capable and fine guy, wonderful wife.
You think he'd be a good president?
Of course, I said I'm taking. I'm not.
I know what you said. Well, then just don't answer the question. I don't care.
So I better not answer the question. But he's very capable.
Well, yeah, he is. So,
yeah.
But you don't want to say whether. Well, you already made clear you don't want to say whether.
Yeah.
I saw an interview with him and Cavuto, and I'm thinking there's a lot of stuff that I don't agree with him about.
Right.
But man, I'm willing to vote for him. I'd vote for him twice.
Interesting.
Because I think he's got enough. I mean, I know about taking over the companies and the people losing their jobs, that sort of thing. But I mean, you got to get real. He's a lot of stuff that makes a lot of sense to me, and boy, I think he has the potential to. I mean, for example, his thoughts about China, which has got me thinking about it. China's not going to do anything. All the stuff they sell so much stuff to us, they can't afford to jump ugly with us. So who are they kidding?
Well, that's true. In other words, this is true in our economic relations, just like our political, our diplomatic relations with them and other countries that bother us, like Iran. Ultimately, you've got to be strong, and the Chinese have that extra factor, which is, yes, we depend on them to loan us money for our debt, unfortunately, but they also depend on us because we're their biggest market and for consumer goods and everything else they make. So you're right. We're kind of in this together, and we don't want to.
Well, it's not me that's right. That's not my point. It's Mitt Romney's right. So I mean,
well, I think
our guy, Senator.
I think it's significant that you like him, and
yeah, I do like him.
Yeah, it's pretty clear that the polls show that he's the strongest candidate against President Obama.
Well, the rest of those people, it's like it's a happy time. It's a circus. I mean, come on.
I always liked the circus. Maybe that's why I've been watching the debates with such interest.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving.
You too, Don, and everybody, your family. I hope Deirdre's good and Wyatt. And it's a great time.
You're always a good sport, Senator, and I appreciate it, and thank you very much.
Too. God bless.
Senator Joe Lieberman here at the Imus Wayne program. It's 12 minutes till the hour. Neil Cavuto. He's coming up next hour. Get it on your mind.
I found my thrill